Hey, Adni fam, it is Anthony. I am so excited for this podcast episode just because I feel like it isn't every day you get to hear from actual healthcare recruiters, and that is who we're joined with today, Jordan.Robertson, who is a healthcare recruiter focused on nursing at Malone Healthcare Solutions. Jordan, thank you so much for doing the podcast and giving us the behind the scenes look at all things recruiting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great way to kind of wrap up the week. It's almost the holidays. It's
Mhm.
wild. This year has flown by. But yeah, would love to start the podcast by just learning a little bit more about you, your background, and how and why you decided to become a recruiter.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I honestly had not really heard about travel nursing apart from a few times. A couple of those times happened to intervene with the birth of my now 4-year-old daughter, her not being fully developed. And it was actually a travel nurse who caught that. She had to be born a little premature, but her lungs weren't fully developed, so she had to go in a little glass box for about 3 weeks until she fully developed. But if that hadn't happened, it was a travel nurse who saved my daughter's life, and so boom, right off the bat, that was a huge life-changing event. And then later on, just due to some illness of my own, actually, it was a travel nurse who, during an intake, just spoke a lot of value and empathy to me, and that was crucial. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment. Won't ever forget that. And so when a buddy of mine called me and said he had a potential position inside of healthcare recruiting, I talked about it with my family and then made the transition and haven't looked back. It's been a wild ride, but a lot of fun, especially just getting to know people across the country, hearing their stories and being able to relate to them. That's been awesome.
That's so amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that story too. I feel like everyone in healthcare has, I think, a lot of times a story that kind of gave you a new perspective of nursing, of healthcare workers, and I think it's really well said. And thank you for sharing it because yeah, I feel like we all have that inspiration or story for kind of what drives us.
Yeah.
But would love to learn more a little bit about like what exactly a healthcare recruiter is. Like, I think maybe we know like the general gist of it, but if you could just describe in your own words, like what is like your role exactly?
Yeah, so I think if you were to look at it pessimistically, it feels a lot of the time like a glorified call center. Um, it's a lot of calling, trying to get people on the phone, and then um, trying to separate yourself from all the other people who can sometimes be blowing up their phone. But really, when I look at it through my perspective, it's just relationships. As a healthcare recruiter, how I want to stand out is I want to make sure that you don't feel like you're just another number. You're not just another nurse. I want to be fully invested, and I want to know like who your kids are, what you're doing on the weekend, what Netflix series you're into, because I really do think that where relationships happen, that's where the real value comes from. And so I've lost people because maybe they're just not interested in relationship, or they're really just looking for the next contract with a higher dollar sign, who knows? And that's totally fine. I would rather, work with people who I can pour value into. I really want them to know at the end of the day that I'm someone who's in their corner and acting as an advocate for them.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like when I talk to like fellow nurses, healthcare workers who are traveling, I feel like most of them definitely like really value the kind of relationship with their recruiter and I think really view their recruiter as someone who could be an advocate for them. So that's
Yeah.
really awesome to hear that that's something you enjoy about the role, like the relationship building. And I know you mentioned you're an extrovert. I'm sure it's a lot of just like talking to different people and relationship building, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, like I mean, I was homeschooled in the middle of nowhere, so like just talking to
Oh,
anybody is kind of a big deal for me.
Really? Oh wow. Is
Yeah.
that where you? Because you're from Nebraska? Is that where you grew up?
No, actually. I am from the mountains. I was born in Colorado, but I was raised in backwoods Montana.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. So
And you were
beautiful,
homeschooled
beautiful places.
your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
And
that's
so,
amazing.
yep, now I'm in Nebraska. My family's here. I've got four beautiful daughters, and yeah, I miss the mountains, so we go as often as we can, but it's nice. It's nice to be close to family here.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure the four kids and healthcare recruiting alone is just
It's a lot,
keeping you
yeah.
busy.
And that's, I always say, like, I feel like I do day shift and night shift. So when a nurse is like, I can only do days, I'm like, oof, I'm jealous. I'm
Yeah.
jealous. Yeah.
No, it really is because I'm sure like as for maybe folks who don't know, but like as a recruiter, are you like really just like on your phone all the time? If like one of your travelers calls you, texts you, you kind of are always managing that.
Yeah, so it really is 24 hours. There is that benefit of like setting those boundaries and letting them know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm not going to be available these times. Or if you do have those issues and they're not crisis level, make sure that it's something we can work through text because I am spending time with family. Like making sure you set
Yeah.
those boundaries is really important because it lets them know um, how to get in contact with you so that you can still take them seriously and help them handle their stress, but also separate that work-life balance, which is super essential.
Yeah. No, I for sure I love that. That's great advice too for like any recruiters listening, just to know that that is a boundary. And I'm sure I know for us healthcare workers, we probably prefer to text anyway, so that
Yeah.
works. Um, but would love to learn more a little bit about the current agency you're with, Malone, and
Yeah.
yeah, if you could just tell us like a little bit about what Malone stands for and how you feel like Malone has kind of stood out to you and to the travelers you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh. Wow. We actually just had our holiday party last night, and so
Oh, no way.
yeah, no, I'm currently still kind of reeling from that, just like how genuine it felt just to see like the leadership and the people who are all the way up to the top in our office here, just serving, refilling your drinks and just sort of that servant leadership mindset and doing it with a smile. Like you could tell that they were just genuinely happy to be there, invested in their team. So that's what they said they were about. And when I came on to find out that it was actually true was something that was a very pleasant surprise. Um, Malone has been in staffing for over 50 years. Their home base is out of Louisville, Kentucky. One of their healthcare divisions is here in Omaha, Nebraska. And the thing that drew me to them was just their empathy. Like, that's one of their core values. It's something we talk about often their practice in integrating that into every aspect. If it's not coming from the bottom up and from the top down, then they're doing it wrong. If we're not, as recruiters, being able to show empathy to our travelers, then we're missing the mark. I really do think that empathy is what uh, differentiates us from some other companies. Yeah, just to hear them say, I don't, we don't want our travelers to feel like a number. We want them to feel like family, and to open the door to new conversations and different thoughts. And how can we strategize that? How can we separate ourselves and make them feel that way? It's been really cool.
That's awesome to hear. And something I'm really passionate about is just like bringing the human factor back into healthcare staffing. I feel like you said it so well when you said just like not making your clinicians feel like a number, because I think so much in especially like the frontline healthcare workforce, it's sometimes easy to just feel like you're just this cog in the wheel and you're just this number and it's just like, oh, we need you on this contract, and it kind of starts losing this like human element that like, hey, like I'm not just a healthcare worker, I'm also a human first.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what you said about like your role as a recruiter and being an advocate and relationship building. And I think you said a lot of that with Malone and kind of the empathy you see at Malone. But would love to kind of hear from you how you or Malone or just in general how you kind of find ways to bring that human touch back into healthcare staffing and make it something that's, kind of at the forefront of your day-to-day practice.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, I honestly, I think that the best way you can do that is just to figure out one, who your most authentic self is, and then to be that. I think that people can sense when you're not being genuine, and nobody wants that. I think that human beings are kind of just they're turned off by that.
Yeah.
And I really don't think you should ever try to be anything less than who you are, at your core. And so that's one of their big things in leadership and development here. And their training is like, don't try to recruit like the person next to you or the company down the street. Just recruit like who you are. And so that encourages just a whole new style that you can make your own. So for me, it really comes down to, like I said, with Netflix, we're in the middle of a pre-screen call, and I'm getting to know them and hearing all about their nursing history and all of their experience, and it's very formal. But then to
Yeah.
break through and to invest into them and just like, well, tell me about you. Like, what are you doing after this call? What is something that's going to bring you joy? Um, like like the Netflix series. Like, what are you geeking out about? What, and then just sharing that human connection, that human experience. That's honestly what I think separates us. That's what I think it forges that bond. Because they're gonna feel that. They're gonna feel that difference. They're gonna feel that lack if they go somewhere else. And they do, like you said, everyone has been a cog in the machine. Everyone has felt like a number. So why not change it? Like, why not just do something different? There's nothing stopping us, and that's what I really love about this company is they've kind of just blown the door off the hinges and encourage that just do your own style. And when it works, it's gonna feel great. It's gonna feel genuine, and yeah, I think you get to work and walk that out in every other aspect of your life. It's really cool.
I really love how you shared, the human side for the clinician, but also for the recruiter
Yeah.
too. Like, and like as a recruiter, like being who you are in your recruiting and like being genuine. Because I think, yeah, I think we've, in this podcast and kind of just in my conversations, I feel like I'm always talking about like the clinician and just the clinician's experiences and the clinician but I think it also is kind of back to the recruiter too, and like being who you are as a recruiter and being your authentic self, because that kind of then allows the clinician to feel comfortable and to feel
Yeah.
like genuine. So I love how you pointed that out.
Yeah, honestly, and I just really think that if especially as a recruiter, if you can overcome that obstacle that says like, I need to get this nurse on on my team, and then just look at it like maybe we don't mesh well, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And if I can be authentic and say to them like, hey, you know what? Like, I might not be the right recruiter for you, but I have someone on my team that I think that you would love. Man, that is going to speak volumes to them because it shows that not only do you value them, um, but you value that their experience be the very best with the company overall. And if
Yeah.
you are not the right fit, to say like, I think I can find someone who like you're gonna hit it off with instantly. Gosh, I don't think that they've probably ever experienced that before.
Yeah. No, and it helps you too as a recruiter. I feel like actually focus on like building those relationships and working with clinicians that do kind of fit your skill set and your personality and your authentic self, which is really better for everyone because then the clinician is also getting kind of the best experience and able to feel
Yeah,
the most comfortable. So yeah, that's really well said. And I feel like something you don't always think about when you're kind of just like so focused on the contract, the location, and the
yeah,
pay and everything else, which is obviously very important. And I think what most people care a lot about, but
yeah.
there is that element too.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, like what I always say, usually my pre-screening call is, "Hey, I know you're probably working with a couple other recruiters, totally fine. Um, I understand we're not going steady right now, but but if in the process of us building your profile and getting to know each other, that you do find a contract with someone else, it's totally fine. We're gonna pop the champagne, we're gonna celebrate, and then when that contract's over, we're gonna hopefully help you find that next one. And that just frees up so much of this image of what a recruiter is, and how they only want you in that moment for that
Right,
contract,
right.
and they're not in it for the long term. If we can get rid of that, and show that, like, you're interested in them not only as a potential contract but as a human being, and
Yeah.
because you've connected, you want to work with them down the line, no matter how hard or how long that's going to take. Like, that shows that you value them. I think that's really something that's going to set you apart.
I love that. That's so well said too. And I feel like as you see like a lot of technology in this space and automation, I feel
Hmm.
like that what you just described is like the part where I see like being lost the most is just
Hmm.
like how you can kind of not just be like, okay, we need to fill this contract. Like that's all we're like focusing on, just all these conversations, just like ghost everyone after if they're not a good fit. But
Yeah,
also like building those relationships, and that goes beyond just like this one first contract.
yeah,
And yeah, it's been really interesting in this space to kind of see like a lot of automation and AI and all of these technologies, which definitely can help kind of make some things more efficient. But I
right.
feel like the part of the equation that you just described is something that will always, I think, need that really like human first element.
Yeah, and it takes
So
time.
yeah, and it takes
Mhm.
time. Yeah, exactly. Just like
Yep,
any like relationship, really.
exactly.
And I guess speaking of that, I'm curious, kind of from your perspective as a recruiter, how you've kind of seen like technology and like different like topics like in that realm come up, and how you have either thought about it or kind of what insights you might have about the technology in this space.
Oh man, yeah. Well, I think that just speaking from the clinician's perspective, their experience when I meet them, when I finally get to them, it's often they're burnt out. They don't want to talk to another recruiter and fill out another application, and all of this work. And I totally get it. So I always just try to say, like, hey, listen, a 20-minute to 30-minute conversation with me where I can get to know you, and we can basically fill out the entire application, get your resume ready to go, and then all you're sending over to me are some documents, some certifications, and we're done. That is so much more worth your while than just communicating through text or some kind of automated response system. Like,
Yeah,
I've seen those, and I just always try to steer away. I want that personal touch, but in the same sense, like, being able to utilize those in the right aspects, in the right space, will free up your time so that you have that ability to stay invested and to build those relationships with your nurses. So I just do, I like them and I respect them, but it's right time and right space. I think that sometimes they can be overused, and that's where we lose that human touch.
well said. I think that's very in line with kind of my perception as well. Is
Yeah.
like definitely helpful for certain things that you can focus on building the relationship, but yeah, sometimes there's only so many like automated texts you want to receive as a clinician, and that is also not good for the recruiter because
Yeah.
it's not allowing them to build that relationship. So
Mhm.
I totally agree. Like, let's just get on the phone call, 20 to 30 minutes, knock everything out, and also be able to like actually talk and
Yeah,
be able to like get to know one another.
absolutely.
That's awesome. So I know you had kind of started as a recruiter. Did you start like kind of post pandemic or like during the pandemic time? When did you exactly start like actually like recruiting for?
I'd say probably just the tail end of it.
Right.
I'm in my second year.
Okay.
Yep. So it would have just been, you know, coming down from those pandemic travel contracts. Yeah, I mean, the bill rates, everything was so much higher than it is now.
Yeah.
Um, and we're getting, everyone always calls it pre-pandemic rates. We're getting back
Right.
to pre-pandemic rates, which I've
Right.
I've never experienced. So it's definitely a new market to me. But what's interesting is, like, just acknowledging the fact that now we have all these nurses who have only done travel nursing inside the pandemic.
Right.
So they are holding out, or they have all these expectations that maybe that's coming back, and it can prove to be a difficult obstacle to work through. Is educating and like helping create that mindset that says, while you're waiting for a contract that's going to pay you this much, that contract may never come. But
Right.
why don't we get you a contract at a facility that we know you're going to love because we've already got people there. They love it. They treat our people really well. We think you're going to enjoy it. And it's going to give you a little less, but of course it's going to be worth your while. Like you're going to be fulfilling needs. You're going to be, fighting for families in a different state. And you're going to, like, I want to honor that sacrifice. And I know that you're worth it. But like, let's get you into a place where we can build your resume, build that experience, and help take care of you and your family. Yeah, so it's a lot, but yeah, it's definitely a little different.
Yeah. No, no, for sure. I think that's what I've definitely been seeing and hearing in different conversations. Is I feel like a lot of travelers who traveled during the pandemic were just kind of used to these like really high rates and like a lot of different opportunities in a way that they had kind of like to work with.
Yeah.
And certainly now I think, it's kind of stabilizing. Um, so I think it's really good advice. It's just,
Yeah.
I think, kind of where we're at in the market and something that we can kind of all become aware of and start acknowledging because yeah, time is flying. It's already 2024 basically. It's wild.
Oh, man, that's crazy. I can't believe it's
Yeah.
almost Christmas.
Yeah, but are you seeing kind of like the from your perspective in terms of the rates and things like that? Are you feeling like things are kind of starting to stabilize now in terms of like there's kind of more consistency or like
Yeah.
how should like travelers and folks like when you're evaluating different opportunities like how should you think about like is this the normal now or kind of is there more to come down or up or things like that?
Um, Gosh, I don't know that I could speak directly to that just because of my limited experience as far as the market, but I would say what the market is right now, let's work with it. But being able to have that honest conversation with that nurse and say, if this is not doable, if this is not maybe what you thought it was, or maybe you had these expectations because all of your friends, like, you know, worked
Right.
through the pandemic and you thought about it and now you're just trying it out and it's not at all what they promised you. Um, Having that hard conversation and saying, like, if it's not going to work, like, that's totally fine. But let's not, like, I don't want to waste your time. And,
Right.
like, if I can't get your expectations down to a more reasonable where the market's at, then that's totally fine. We can cut ties and we can go the other way. But I'm always here. Like if you want to give it a try, or if we find something that might we can make work. I think a big part is also just like the knowledge of your recruiter. Are they going to help educate you? Are they going to have those connections of finding you a city where you're going to be able to find housing, and the stipends are like you're going to be able to make more because you're not it's not a gross amount that you're going for. You're sort of dialed in and you know a lot of the tips and the tricks to really make it worth your while. If you can work with someone who has that knowledge and who's trying to educate you, that is just so much more beneficial than chasing a number.
Yeah.
But it
Well
comes
said.
to trust. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. And that goes back to the relationship too and just getting on that call, kind of understanding the contract and all of that
Yeah.
more in depth. Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. It's super interesting to kind of explore and hear your perspective in this post-pandemic or back to pre-pandemic rates or all of these different terms. So I guess this leads me to my next question. I'm curious if you have any advice for any healthcare workers listening who maybe have thought about travel nursing or thought about taking a travel assignment, but they maybe have some second thoughts or they're scared, they're just not even sure kind of where to start. Would love to hear like if you have any advice to give folks listening that are maybe thinking about taking the leap.
Yeah. Call me. You
I
know,
love it.
Honestly, like again, I love relationship. I love building those connections. And if I spend 45 minutes on the phone getting to know you and you decide it's not for you, I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be disappointed. Like, I still think that that is an investment. Just, yeah, I'd rather, safeguard you, your resume, your experience. And if you can avoid something that could be a terrible experience for you, um, awesome. We just saved you from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give us a call. Ask all of those really hard questions. Ask me what are some good questions that you like that I've heard that could maybe give you some peace of mind or shine some light. I really do think that yeah, it just comes down to conversation, getting to know someone with some experience, and having that relationship to ask those questions. That's the biggest thing I think.
Yeah, no, I love that because I feel like sometimes you don't even think about just calling because you're scared if you call, then you kind of are like tied into a contract or then you can't talk to other people. Like, there's all these kind of like maybe just myths or anxieties that get created because you're just not sure. Um, but I guess that comes back to just like having transparency and
Yeah.
being able to like have that kind of at the forefront of everything.
Yeah, and also
So,
just I always say like because every nurse is always going to be on some Facebook group, and while I think that there's a lot of value there, I always say like the negative perspectives are always going to be the loudest. And the way I always say it is, I don't want to get to know someone through other people's words. I want to get to know someone through my experience, and that is applicable through every factor of life. But when it comes down to it, like what you've heard about a facility, what you've heard about a staffing company, what you've heard about a contract, they're like let me connect you with some nurses that have actually worked there or who are there right now to give you their perspective because it could be amazing, it could be life changing, but ultimately it's your choice. I don't want you to feel pressured. I don't want you to feel like you have to take an assignment. I want you to have all those questions answered so that when we do get that offer, it's 100% yes and you're excited about it. You're not still working through those doubts, you know?
yep, yep. No, absolutely. Yes, there's a lot of noise on the internet. That is for sure. And I think obviously a lot of helpful resources out there, but I mean, I've found this as a nurse. It's sometimes hard to know like what to trust and what not to because there are so many different perspectives. There's so many different pieces of advice and content nowadays. It's just like you don't really know. I mean, I think people have started to get better at sussing it out, as you mentioned. Like you can kind of feel the authenticity of it, or if there's
Yeah.
genuineness. But there really is so much out there that it's just overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's that way for everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I really wanted to see that movie, but the box office says it's terrible. Do I still? Yeah, I'm gonna
Right.
see the movie. I was excited about it, and then I
Right.
go and I
Right.
deeply enjoy it and becomes, one of my favorites. I could have missed out on that because someone with a completely different experience, expectation, perspective may not, it didn't appeal to them. But come on, like don't miss out on something great just because somebody kind of scared you away from it.
Yeah. Well said, for sure. Yes. Sometimes I'm like, even if it's a finale of a TV show coming up or
Yeah.
something, I know I'm going to open social media and it'll probably get ruined. So,
Yep. Yep.
um, yes. Well, this kind of wraps up to our last question here. I think we kind of talked a lot about different things like, authenticity, empathy, transparency, a lot of these kind of relationship building tools that you've
Yeah.
been able to kind of practice as a recruiter, and really interesting insights, all of that kind of coming back to this idea of like rehumanizing healthcare staffing and
Yeah.
not just viewing clinicians like a number, but being able to build those relationships and build that sense of trust that I think benefits both the recruiter and the clinician. So, would
Mhm.
love to hear from you why you believe that rehumanizing healthcare staffing is more important maybe now than ever before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's post-pandemic. staffing. I mean, we're going into what I mean, it could be that this is what the market stays at forever. We don't know. It will always change and grow and up and down. Um, I don't think that that's why we should get into it. I think that the pay is a big deal, but like if you're going to uproot your life and go somewhere to take care of other people's family members, there we like I want you to be seen, and I want you to know you're not a number, and I want you to know that like I see that, and I want to honor that sacrifice, and I want to make sure you feel appreciated and respected, because when you do feel that way, it's gonna help you maintain your heart. And if you can continue to give your heart in everything you do, you're not gonna get the burnout as easily. You're going to be able to show up and be an advocate for people's loved ones across the country. And I want to make sure I'm giving my best, which is, yeah, making sure that I'm my most authentic self as a human, so that I can make sure that you're seen as a human.
Amazing. So well said. Jordan, thank you so much for all of the incredible insights you've shared. It's really, really interesting, I feel like, to hear kind of all of these questions from the recruiter perspective, just because, I think we've heard it from like, leader perspectives and clinicians, but I think getting to hear from the recruiter, which is such an important role, is really, really insightful and so, so awesome. And thank you so much for your support, supporting Adni. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
And would love for you to share how clinicians, anyone can find you, contact you, call you. What's the best way to reach you?
Oh man, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can call me. My email is probably the most direct, because that is we are always in our email as recruiters. So it's just Jordan.Robertson at malonesolutions.com. And yeah, you'll connect right with me.
Perfect. Well, yes, that is the recruiter perspective. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us on the Adni Huddle podcast, and have a great holiday.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and happy holidays.